Welcome inside, everyone. My name is Griffin Porter. Welcome back to the OUA Basketball Show. Apologies for no show last week. Unfortunately, I was out sick, but we will waste no time and get right back into it because we got a lot of stuff to talk about this season. So we'll start on the men's side, where, of course, talk of the country right now, among a few other teams, but the University of Ottawa GGs ranked number one in the OUA in the nation right now. They're 7-0, had another undefeated weekend this weekend, obviously, and they're certainly making a big statement. With Carleton faltering a little bit despite going 2-0 this weekend, maybe they're saying Ottawa's our town now. Really looking forward to a Capital Hoops. That could be a big game. Obviously not until February, but who gets hurt by looking ahead? Some other notable games on the men's side saw York. They defeat U of T 112-108 in a double overtime absolute thriller. That was a really good game. Shout out to Evan Shadkami for putting up 40 points in that big win for the Lions. And the other big storyline on the men's side, the Queens Gales stumbling a little bit. They were 5-0, but they've lost 2 in a row. Surprising stuff from them. They lost last weekend to Ontario Tech and then again to the Brock University Badgers. And we'll have a little more on Queens and Brock in just a second, but not the men's game, as we move over to the women's side, where once again Coach Carly Clark has her TMU Bold looking very good, 9-0 for the team from downtown Toronto. They just had a nice win over Laurier on Wednesday to become the first team in the OUA to get to 9 wins on the season. Meanwhile, the Waterloo Warriors must have gotten that OUA Basketball Show bump when Giselle came on the show a couple weeks ago. They're riding a 3-game winning streak, and they look very strong at 7-1. But the big headline this weekend was the play of the Brock Badgers. A fantastic weekend for them. And to get more into that, we have a pair of guests to talk about it. I am here. You guys can tell it's a big show. I'm here with 2 guests from the big story in the OUA basketball right now, the Brock Badgers. We had to get the established veteran and the breakout star, Madalyn Weinert and Oluwatito Akinnusi. Thank you guys both so much for coming on the OUA Basketball Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
This is exciting. We don't normally get 2 guests at once. The only other time we did it last year was when we had 2 members of the Carleton Ravens after they each won the national championship. So this is unprecedented territory. This is a big deal. But I know Madalyn's got to get to class. She's squeezing us in here, so we'll get right into the action. You guys are making a lot of noise so far this season. You're combining for over 40 points per game, and right now everyone's talking about the Brock Badgers. You're getting posted on all the Instagram accounts and all of that. How are you guys viewing the start of the season so far?
I think it's just been a team effort to get down, work hard. It's a long summer, obviously. May to right almost end of September is a long time to not really be playing a ton, but I think it's been a lot of hard work this summer, and that's been super exciting to see translate onto the floor in these last couple games.
Yeah, I would say like majority of us, we spent our summer here, like working together, growing. And the preseason, it didn't go like how we wanted it, but we bonded from that and we're building on, and it's starting to show like now throughout the season. So
Okay, yeah. So you guys were both of you in St. Catharines over the summer?
Yeah, I'm from here, so I was.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Very
so,
nice
yeah.
and easy.
Yeah.
All right, and Oluwatito, you in particular had a big work of summer ahead of you. Like you're taking on a much bigger role this year than you did last year. Your minutes alone are up by over like 25 per game. How did you sort of approach the summer? I assume you knew that you would have a much bigger role this year. What did you try and change over the summer to get ready for this big role now?
the first thing was just committing to be here. Like I would be here throughout the whole week, and then I would go on the weekend. The main thing I would work on would be like my offensive game, like the key, because I knew that we were losing 2 bigs and that I would step up that. So I would work on my post moves, my finishing, my shooting, and yeah, just finishing inside the key.
Well, that's great. It's paying off so far, safe to say. I want to get into this past weekend in particular because it really got people talking. You guys put up big wins over Queens and McMaster. I want to talk a bit about both games, but the Queens win in particular was a very impressive because we all know how good the Queens Gales are. You guys may have like gone into that game technically as underdogs. I don't like to ever say like, oh, you pulled off the big upset, but maybe on paper a little bit of underdogs. How, like, do you approach it differently when you're playing like an undefeated team like that, or is every game sort of the same?
I think every game's kind of the same. I think the key to that game ended up being that we had all the starters were over double digits in points, and that I think that was just the key, was it being a team game rather than an individual game. They obviously scout and they go into games knowing people's strengths and weaknesses and trying to stop that. And for us, it's to just find those open people and for those people to make shots.
I also think like our defense was a big part too. Like I was reading the stats and only one of their players got over double digits, so that played into a fact that to the win. So
Yeah, Madalyn, you sort of anticipated my next question there because, like you said, everyone in double digits. If you look at the box score in that one, you guys had players like Angeline and Olivia really leading the way in the points column. What does that just sort of say about the quality of your team as a whole? That when you've got this tough opponent in this big game, everyone stepped up like that.
Yeah, I think that shows that people rise to the occasion. That's someone's got the only one person can have the ball in their hands. So as long as people are moving and finding those open spaces, they're going to get the ball. And I think it's them being confident enough to take those shots, and then as the ball starts rolling, to continue to take those shots to help the team.
Right. And then, of course, the other McMaster win, that one was the spotlight right on the two of you, especially for you, Oluwatito. 37 points on efficient shooting. Madalyn, you, of course, had 25. Two of you, if I'm doing my math right, combined for 62 of Brock's 82 points. Like, when did you sort of realize that it was going to be a very special game? You made all the headlines. That was just a great performance. Could you tell early on that you were sort of onto something against the Marauders?
The first quarter, it was the pick and roll, and it just continued to work. So we continued to play off of it. Obviously, McMaster was a solid team. They did not go away. They shot extremely well. So
Yeah.
it came down to working hard on the defensive end and then continuing to find what was open. And Tito happened to be open quite a bit on the post. So it was just that realization from our guards of finding her and getting her the ball down there.
Yeah, 37 points, Oluwatito. Is that maybe the most it's clicked for you in your OUA career so far? That must have felt like a pretty good game at the end of that one.
it did. I could tell from the first quarter when I had every time we would attack, they would always double the person with the ball, leaving me open. So I would get like back to back open layups. So from that first quarter, I think I had like 4 of those layups in a row, and I knew that if they didn't change the way that they were playing, that I would continue to get those open looks. So, and it kept
There you go. Adapt into what the defense gives you. That's the basketball IQ on full display. Madalyn, we talked about Oluwatito's new role this year. You are obviously sort of in a more similar role than you're used to. You've started every game for Brock in your career, but you are a third-year player now. I was wondering if you have started to change anything, like the way that you approach the locker room or even on the court now that you're a bit more of a veteran as opposed to one of the younger players.
Yeah, I think I've definitely become more vocal on the court as well as in the locker room. And I think I'm just there every game to do what the team needs, whether that be score, pass, rebound. That's my goal, is whatever this team needs to succeed. And that's really what I try to work for every day when I get into the gym.
Is she nice? When she says she's vocal, is she mean, or is she still still a good teammate?
Nah, she's still a good team.
Of course. Sorry.
She gets her point across.
Yeah, I bet. Well, guys, I know that we have got to run here. Your student athletes first. Madalyn's cutting it close on the class, but I really appreciate you both taking the time. Brock's been so exciting, and good luck the rest of the year. You got the eyes on you now, so
Thank you.
have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, another big thank you to both Madalyn and Oluwatito for coming onto the show. Really great to have both of them. I love having two guests at the same time. I mentioned we did it last year when Connor Freakin and Callie Pockernick came on the show at the same time. So this was just our second time doing two guests, but I really like having that dynamic, especially two teammates. Now on to our games to watch this weekend. On the women's side, I got my eye on the Queens Gales. I want to see how they respond now that they've had a couple of tough losses. They've had a couple of days to work on some things, and it's a good test with the 5-3 Guelph Griffins going up against Queens. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. And then on the men's side, I like a matchup between a couple teams that I think they want to establish themselves as an elite tier. They're looking to challenge to win their division maybe by the end of the year. We got two teams like that going head to head. So the Laurier Golden Hawks are taking on Brock, who of course just had that big win over Queens. So I think that'll be a fun one to watch. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks again to our great guest this week. My name's Griffin Porter. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week right here on the OUA Basketball Show.